saying, how about them Cowboys?
Yes, sir. Welcome into How About Wow, home of the best Cowboy debates. It is week 3 of the OTAs for our Cowboys, and things are getting spicy. Round of cold beers coming up. I cannot wait to talk about these Cowboys topics with you tonight, including Stephen Jones getting a little testy already. Trevon Diggs might cost himself $500,000, but he's not the biggest selfish star on the Cowboys. I'll tell you who is. We have Coach going deep on his philosophy, Newbear. I know you love that. Trade rumors are back. We have an NFL star who hates the Cowboys. And there is a Cowboys defensive player hating on his former coach. So things are spicy, maybe even a little borderline toxic. And if you give us 20 minutes or so, we're going to cover all these topics with you. Welcome into How About Wow. I'm Gavin Dawson for 105.3 The Fan, G-Bag Nation, home of the Cowboys, and the former all-academic lineman at Kentucky, Newbear, joining us once again. Buddy, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great, man. About 8 hours away from a little tiny Tommy John. I got a full tear of the UCL in the old thumb, so I'm going to be a little henpecked owl over here.
Well, man, I just love talking Cowboys with you. I appreciate you playing hurt, man. You've been doing a hell of a job all week, not only here, but on howboutwow.com, where you can read our Cowboys thoughts. Okay, here's Stephen Jones. I love it. And the question is, why is Stephen Jones so mad, and why do the Cowboys keep getting whooped in big negotiations? Here's Steve. You got to be fucking kidding me.
What is going on? What's the hap, Tommy?
Where you guys are with Mike in that situation?
No different than anything else. I'll let you know when it happens.
Where you guys are?
I got it, buddy. Hang tight. Hang tight. You're still in there?
Yeah.
We're good. Okay. I'm just going to edit this out.
Where you guys are with Mike in that situation?
No different than anything else. I'll let you know when it happens.
Has there been any more conversation?
I'll let you know when it happens.
Disappointed at all that he's not here?
No, I mean, that's part of the business. I mean, well, all teams go through it, and that's part of the business.
You expect him to be here next week?
You'd have to ask Micah.
He's been able to manage Diggs.
If we're going to talk about Micah, I'm headed in here. Y'all done?
Yeah.
Seriously, I don't need to talk about Micah. I said all I'm going to say about it. Are we clear? Okay.
Seriously, and are we clear? Stephen Jones sounding like a frustrated Jerry Jones last week after the Cowboys losses were piling up. You know, we love it when it gets spicy, man. I think the interesting thing, New Bear, is why is he so frustrated? And I think he might be frustrated because the Cowboys keep getting whooped in negotiations. I've been calling them the cavemen for years because they cave in negotiations at the end, really, since Zeke. In right before the 2019 season, Dak, so on and so forth. If you wait, you will set the market for your position if you're anywhere near the best player at that spot.
Which Micah is. I mean, he's in that conversation year after year after year. He's a Sunday dude. He's going to show up and knock some teeth out. And you'll get to this, I know, a little bit more in a bit about how he just tweeted out that, you know, he's going to be there, hasn't missed a mini camp in 4 years, and some of those things. The problem is, and why Steven's acting like Jerry, is that this is a dude in Micah Parsons who's got Kobe Bryant pinned to the top of his Twitter profile. And it's the lion thing. I can't change who I am. I got to eat. And if you're going to play that Mamba mentality game, then this isn't just the guy who's skipping the club to go work out. This is a guy who's getting up at 4 to work out at 8, to work out at 12, to work out again at 4 in the afternoon. If you're going to be that dude and you're going to talk about leadership, and everyone else is going to be talking about leadership and rallying around you, you got to be present.
You do, and that's tough. I think Micah Parsons knows intellectually like what a leader says and what he does, and he's trying to emulate that. It's just hard. You know how it is, New Bear. I mean, you played at a high level. You're either a leader or you're not. And if you're not a leader, but you happen to be an amazing player, and you don't want to just lead by example, but you want to try to be like, the Derek Jeter or whatever your mythical type of example is, and you step out and try to do, it's not gonna be a good look, and that comes to knowing yourself, which not many 25-year-olds do. So look, I'm happy that Micah is really, really good. I'm happy that a contract is going to get done, but I do think it's interesting because I think there's a competitive disadvantage to how the Cowboys manage their contracts. Waiting so long, you're going to let TJ Watt reset the market, and then what could have been 37 is going to end up being 45, and extrapolated over a 5-year deal is just another big contract. Dak still has the biggest in the market by a long, long shot, because here's what happens. An agent like David Mulligetta knows the Cowboys don't move on from their star players. So I'm just going to ask for the most. I'm going to refuse to do anything resembling a team-friendly deal until you just give me the most. I know you're not moving on. Why? We understand our value to you. And I've said this before, the Cowboys look at their star players as stars in a TV show. They are co-branded to the star, and together they print tens and tens of millions of dollars. They're not interchangeable. Once I have spent 5 years developing a character on a TV show, you're going to have to move hell or high water to get me to kill that character off. That's what you're asking me to do. And the only thing that does that is poor performance. So I am destroying you. And I think that's why Steven's pissed.
So you're saying it's the opposite of Game of Thrones, where anyone can die at any time? It's a fascinating.
If you're good, you ain't going anywhere. You know, and here's the thing: if you're almost good, like Osa and Diggs or Jalen Smith, if you signed a hella team-friendly deal, you can stay. How about that? Those are the only guys they really negotiate with, the guys that end up signing team-friendly deals because they're not good, but they still end up making a ton of cash.
But are those guys AP1, AP1, AP2, DPOY,
Nope.
one running every year? That's the thing here is stars of stars. And the brand is the brand is the brand. And we've talked before about the $140 million buy-in that's now a 10-point-plus billion-dollar entity. And when you start talking about butts in seats and selling merchandise, and what do you always bring up? That this is the drama that keeps the conversation going, that keeps America's team at the top of the tweet. We're talking about week 3 of OTAs, and we're talking about a player who's never missed minicamp. We're talking about a player who is genuinely healthy, generally available, and when he's out there, he's kicking butt and taking names. So he's now professing, that I'm going to do that and I'm going to be that guy. This really comes back to omnipresence, because like you said, you can be a great player and not be a leader. And one of the things about Micah that couldn't be more different than Derek Jeter is this dude is podcasting during the season. This dude is out there getting in other grown men's business while that business is happening. And now that this business is taking place, it's good for business for the Jones family because they're going to keep trending. Yeah. It's going to be good for Micah because he's going to get paid. What's getting lost in the shuffle of this is the young guys who can learn from him and the dudes who are going to be next to him who can learn how to play off of him. Every rep, every situation, especially with a new leading man and especially with a ton of new faces and new places. You're talking about draft and free agency. I mean, thanks for the kudos about, me with the typey type, but you've done a hell of a job here going position by position about who's available, who could up the defense here, who could up the defense there. He's the guy that dictates how all that other stuff slots.
He is, man, and he's incredible, and you don't want to let him go. I just want the Cowboys to manage the cap a little bit better, and I just don't know that they have the energy or the appetite to fix this, because the only thing that's really going to fix it is playing back in the negotiations with strength and conviction that we're actually going to start letting guys go if they don't stop extracting an extra 25% of us. They did it to themselves. I would
agree and align on one thing.
Here's what's that? Here's what we do know is that the Cowboys aren't bad negotiators. They're not. They will not lose. So, what helps this make sense is so interesting to me. I have hypothesized that they are engagement farming with cap dollars because they keep all these conversations going on a local and national level, and dollar per dollar spent the difference in the contracts that they get after 18 months of listening to these debates, it's probably the best marketing money they've ever spent on the star. Oh, hell, it's going to cost us an extra $4 million. It's fine. Look at the word of mouth advertising we're getting across all these major sports brands and platforms in America. So it's genius business by Jerry Jones. I want to give him credit for that, but it's not helping the team win. You mentioned Micah's tweet. He said, "I'll be there and all that. I'm ready to win a Super Bowl. I have my teammates and a playbook, and I'm preparing as if I'll be on the field the first week of camp." That's fine. Mandatory mini camps next week, training camp, whatever. We don't need you here. You're a Dion of the sport. Just show up and rush the passer. Right now, you're changing to another defensive coordinator, third different one in 3 seasons. Last year, your guys failed to buy into Mike Zimmer until midseason. You should be panicked and paranoid, but you're not, because you're selfish. You're preoccupied with what's convenient for you, and you don't really know what it takes to be a leader. No real leader would even fix their lips to say I'm a leader and then miss moments like this, where team bonding and learning opportunities are, popping up every hour.
Especially when Shotty's preaching culture, and it's not just musical chairs. It's the buddy cop movie with GP and CD and all these other elements. The Eberflus thing is really interesting too, because Micah's talking about wanting to do more. He doesn't just want to be like TJ Watt and be a one-trick pony. He wants to get back to more of some of that hybrid all-over stuff. Every single one of those things is another activity within the organized team activities, right? If you line up and you rush from one side is different than the other. Playing off ball, sliding out and doing some fun stuff from the slot. Him being able to be versatile allows Eberflus to get more and more creative, right? And allows these guys, again, to have to figure out how to go like this. If he's here, right, that picture looks different.
Mm-hmm. All good points, my man. Same with Calvin Watkins, Morning News. He wrote about this story and says it's not a good look for Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs to be out. And I think that resonates, when the Morning News writes something about the Cowboys. It's loud, especially because Watkins is the guy who kind of had Trevon Diggs' back 3 weeks ago, writing that while the Cowboys are disappointed in his physical therapy routine and commitment, that Diggs wasn't a big believer in the Cowboys medical staff. But I mean, this is kind of putting you out there, and I think it is setting up New Bear, where this time next year, Trevon Diggs is not going to be a Cowboy.
This one's tough because of the history, and the history of him, quite frankly, not being very good at rehabbing. What I will caveat that with, and a reason that you could very easily say, I have no problem with this, is we're talking about $500,000. Dude makes $9 million. If you made $100,000, that's 5 times what you made. But for him, it's $5,000, $5,500. It's relative chump change. On top of that, it's 100x. It's potentially $50 million. If he doesn't get this right, it's over. There's no coming back from this.
That was the breaking news about 2 hours ago. Todd Archer wrote about it here, 6:56 Eastern. It's 8:56 Eastern right now. But yeah, apparently, if you didn't catch that, he's going to lose a $500,000 escalator by not taking part in 84.3% of the offseason programs. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. Maybe it is chump change. I don't know if $500,000 is actual chump change to anybody. Dude, that's massive. He is a $20 million player, but you can't bleep off $500,000 too many times after taxes, and still be, holding generational wealth. But I'll tell you what, maybe he's unaware of the contract. That wouldn't be the first time. Maybe he doesn't think the Cowboys will actually hold him to it. Or maybe he doesn't like the Cowboys or being around here so much that he is willing to lose $500,000 just to stay away for an extra 3 weeks, which is insane. But whatever the case, I just don't see him back with the Cowboys. And I think at this point with his injury history, it's already over. Torn ACL, then the next year, microfracture. You're coming up towards the end of a payday second contract you signed early. Congratulations. Good on you. Don't give away $500,000 for foolishness anymore, and life should be good.
To that end,
yeah.
All I'm saying is that he's still a young man, and players are playing longer than they ever have. This surgery wouldn't have existed in previous eras for him to be able to even give it a shot. When you're talking about growing cartilage in a petri dish and implanting that and trying to be some sort of bionic man out there on the island. This is a different deal because you just use the term generational wealth though, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not about this 9 or 20, it's about the next 29. And that doesn't happen if he goes out there and he's limping his way off the field. It's not just the end of 2025. It's the end of Trevon Diggs.
All righty, next story on How About Wow, New Bear. How about Cowboys defensive tackle Osa Odighizuwa making brutally clear what Cowboys players thought of Mike Zimmer? This is Jerry Trotta in the Landry hat. I want to salute him. Let me go ahead and share the screen here real quick so you can see it. I want to salute him. Apparently he watched this Osa interview from OTAs. Says, based on some of the things that we're being asked to do right now, I was going back and watching some of the tape from last year. I'm like, if I was doing the stuff that we're being coached to do now, I'm making this play, I'm making that play. So just seeing that there's going to be a lot more opportunities based on the stuff that he's having us do, I'm excited about that. Osa, very, very good in pass rush situations. Maybe top 10, top 5, 3 technique defensive tackle with pressures. The run defense was bad. And, I wonder if he's talking about getting all that cleaned up with what Eberflus is asking to do compared to what Zimmer asked last year. But, man, if I'm Mike Zimmer, that fastball's flying in pretty hot on me right now, isn't it?
You know what I love about this is it's players going to bat for their coach. And this is a new coach. This is a guy that a lot of the guys on the team have 5, 8, 10 years of history with. And there's a narrative out there that Eberflus is kind of a goof. And if you saw some of the things he said, I mean, it was like he grew a beard and he became a good coach. He wasn't good in Chicago. The Bears were not good any way you cut it. But the reason he got the job is because he was a pretty damn good DC. And part of rewriting that narrative is these guys buying in and rewriting that publicly.
Yeah. No, that's great. He's got to appreciate it. They got the best vibes in the league right now. It is on 100 for sure. And speaking of that, the guy that sets the tone is Brian Schottenheimer. And you sent me a link to this quote here today. I went looking for the audio. I don't know when exactly he said this in the video, but I watched his presser twice and I couldn't find it, buddy. So, but he was talking about the way that he practices compared to the style of his dad and how different it is in this generation. What jumped out to you about it, buddy?
The fact that he's talking about being different from his dad, right? The fact that he's talking about still becoming his own man and evolving and taking bits and pieces from all these different places, particularly with Pete Carroll. And there's a really interesting message in there, even though things didn't end well for him and he was scapegoated in the let Russ cook fallout. A lot of that came down to him having to merge roughly 30 or 40% of his system with what those guys were already doing there. And oh, by the way, Russ is Russ, and there are limitations there with that. And as you look at all the different things that he's experienced in his career, and we've chronicled a lot of the challenges, particularly with injuries to the quarterback that he's dealt with at every single stop, it's really cool to see him coming into his own. And like you said, best vibes in the league. And what does that mean functionally and fundamentally for this team? It means that he has got to be real. Like if it's a show and it's toxic positivity and it's bullshit, it's not. It's so genuine with him that he's bringing guys toward him, right? His vibration, like it's literally changing the way this team feels. You're talking about humble pie. You're talking about buddy cop movies, but you're also talking about players standing up for their coaches, but for no rhyme or reason. It wasn't like there was a question that was asked point blank that said, "How do you want to take a shit on Mike Zimmer right here?" It was this guy coming out and saying, "I'm watching film.
Yeah,
I'm watching myself in practice do things that if I was taught to do this way before, I would be a better player." And when you start seeing that translate on Sunday, that speaks volumes. That says more than any player could ever say. And you're starting to see these guys take ownership in very meaningful ways.
Cold beer for New Bear for that line, by the way. Joke of the pod so far. How do you want to take a shit on Mike Zimmer right now? If you want to come out to Oxnard, maybe ask that to a couple of players. That'd be hilarious. I'd love to see you at training camp. But between now and then, my man, I would love if you could tell our audience and me what's in our plans here at howboutwow.com this week.
Yeah, we're going to continue with the OT answers, having a whole bunch of fun, going position by position. We've got a part 2 on the QBs. We're going to keep going deeper into the cornerback conversation, which looks like it's going to continue to evolve with this injury mill. And as you continue to get deeper into news, I think there's an opportunity for some new players to join the team as we continue to grow and develop. I've got some deeper dive stuff that I'm nerding out on down some sports reference rabbit holes. It's just a whole lot of fun to take conversations here and let them inform some of the stories we tell on the page, and then let the thing happen in reverse toward midweek mic drops, daily dimes, and of course the Sunday show.
I love it, buddy. I cannot wait. Best of luck on your operation tomorrow, and looking forward to picking up with you later in the week when you are ready.